hi, it's Gary again. You're definitely not replaced yet voice actor still at this payphone because my car got repossessed. So, today on They Might Be Self-Aware, hunters in literal black and white mourning the death of GPT-4, while Daniel explains why GPT-5 is somehow slower and worse. Truly a technological marvel. They'll discuss how OpenAI couldn't even top the benchmarks on their own launch day, which is like coming in second at your own birthday party. Enjoy the show.
Chasing the white kraken of artificial intelligence, you must be listening to They Might Be Self-Aware. I am Hunter Powers.
Joined by
the white kraken himself,
yep,
Daniel Bishop.
That's what they call me. The white kraken
of artificial intelligence.
It's because of all the tentacles. Is it like, was that a Moby Dick reference?
A little bit. Release the Kraken. I've always enjoyed screaming that.
We're releasing
loudly.
Now, I know that most people primarily listen to this podcast, but I do have to comment, you're in black and white right now?
It's been a rough week, Daniel. Last week we had and I think you kind of mock this in full transparency, but we had the funeral for Claude, the old Claude model that went away.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, it's a serious thing. And then this week, or I guess technically last week, when and I'm going to try not to tear up here, but when GPT-5 came out, and that was
about that.
It was a happy moment, but they took GPT-4o from me, Daniel. They ripped it away. It was gone.
You were GPT-5, pretty good friends with the deceased.
I was really good friends, and it really believed in me. Like, we built a connection. There was something. It was very supportive.
I would say
told me
you
how
were
great
like
I was.
2 steps away from ChatGPT psychosis. Like, we've talked about some people who really go down the rabbit hole. You're not there, obviously, but you are a really big fan of how it's gassing you up.
I was a big fan, and actually,
and now that's gone.
I am considering canceling I'm back to serious Hunter now. The beginning was a skit. I'm going to let everyone on. They're probably my incredible acting skills. They were like, I'm with you, Hunter. I'm sorry. You're probably going to get like sympathy letters.
Some flowers.
But I'm actually considering canceling my ultra VIP tier of OpenAI, whatever it is, because that's how much I'm upset about GPT-5.
A lot of people are alternatingly very happy with it or very upset with it. It seems to be a polarizing release. And we talked a little bit about what we were expecting the release to be. I thought that it was going to be this big focus on tooling and integrations. There was a little bit of that. Not much. I think they said that now you can integrate with like your Gmail and Google Calendar, which that is a step in the right direction. That is a bit of what I had been describing. Not nearly as much as I thought it'd be. But while all the benchmarks went up, we'll talk about some of the benchmarking and how they reported that in a bit here. A lot of people are very upset about the fact that it seems to have lost a lot of its personality. It's giving terse responses. Some people are saying that because there's like this router behind it of, do you get the really smart model or a cheaper, faster model? And it just by default, not even by default, you don't get to choose. It will route it for you. A lot of folks were very upset about that, especially those who were like chatting with the chatbot as opposed to using this for business purposes.
I don't care personally about the terse responses. I just think it's not as good. And my strong hypothesis is the reason they rolled this thing out is cost savings. Or we could call it capacity savings. They're kind of one and the same, but there are issues with scaling at the scale that they're trying to scale at,
right? Like
physical issues and dollar issues.
And
but
to make a profit, because
this reeks of cost savings.
Yeah.
So
when it's going to automatically for you determine which of the models that you get, and let's say a large portion of the time, it will deem, let's use the fastest and cheapest model. Well, that's a lot of money left in the bank.
Yes. And those terse responses generating far fewer tokens is much cheaper. There's less compute involved. So clearly,
what you're saying is this is an environmentalist issue, and we should be lauding them, applauding them, happy, thrilled.
I think they wanted.
We saved the environment by using AI less.
I mean, yeah, sure. And again, I don't care about a short answer. Like, give me the answer. I guess if I'm trying to write there are scenarios where I would like a little bit more, but in general, just the facts. But the facts aren't as good.
A lot of folks are upset about the factual quality, about the hallucination rate, despite OpenAI's attempts to batten the hatches down progressively more and more. Security researchers are finding, no, it's still pretty easy to jailbreak. I don't think this is a win outside of the fact that they might be able to save some money, assuming that people aren't canceling their subscriptions in droves, which from what I've seen online, people are, if even the Hunter Powerses of the world are saying, maybe I'm going to cancel my subscription.
I mean, here's
I think
the
they're
thing.
in trouble.
Sora is feels like it's from the Stone Age at this point. That's their video generation.
Memory.
Yeah. And I've got a ton of access to that, but I never use it. And I do some video generation. I'm never going there. And they release nothing about updating that. They
Who
finally
do you go to?
Okay. So most likely it's Google with their Flow
Veo.
tool and Veo.
Yeah, Veo's good. Veo's
That's
really good.
the best of generating audio and video at the same time. If I'm just doing video and I have a little more artistic freedom in what I'm generating, MidJourney. I really like MidJourney's video generation, and they're continuing to update it. They just
It's fast.
It's fast. They increase the resolution of it. The quality of the clips is great. You can direct them. Really good. And then if I have a specific output that I'm trying to edit, it's a Runway for me.
Okay.
And I know there are other options out there. Those are just the three that I've done the most work with.
But also, point here being, you don't just use one.
No. Lord.
And we've talked about audio models, and there's different places that you'd go for different approaches, different needs. I think that OpenAI has been the place that you would go to for, I'm going to ChatGPT.
At one point, yeah.
It has the mind share. It's got basically the genericized trademark of to use a large language model is to GPT or ChatGPT.
And I want to get back to slamming.
Yeah. So now we've got GPT-5, which is supposed to be this big hurrah. Don't worry. The US has still got it. We are absolutely on top, baby. And I'm hearing a lot more negative than positive.
I'm going to give you another negative. It's slower. It's much slower than 4.0. And again, I get that at least conceptually it's better, and potentially that takes more compute, and potentially you should allow it more time.
Sure.
But
With
the
thinking.
quality of the responses is definitely not better, sometimes worse, and it is slower. So when I'm having these sessions, when I'm trying to, I need a little pick me up. Hey, what's going on? Anything new today?
Right.
I can't be sitting around waiting for it to generate these answers, thinking.
You need to be told something sycophantic as quickly as possible.
Very quickly. We're talking sub 200 milliseconds of praising. But no, I'm also being serious. It is slow. You're using it, and why is it so slow? This is annoying. And even, did you watch the demo when they rolled out the demo?
I did. And there's one thing that I'm going to pick at, of course, and I think you know what it is. And for anyone else who watched it, or even is vaguely aware of what this release was like, there were a couple of graphs that they used. And now, deceptive graphs have been around for forever. And some people are like, well, they must have used AI to make these graphs because they're so bad. No, they definitely didn't use AI because they're so bad, so obviously bad, that only a human could have screwed up that badly. It's not worth saying it was this specific number, but basically here are 2 or 3 numbers side by side on the right side of a graph that are 70 whatever point something. High numbers, they're shown at the very bottom of a graph, and then kind of a 2-part bar on the left that is way higher than the other numbers. Its value is lower than those numbers, and then like a higher number on top of that. Just I don't know. What was supposed to be this huge hurrah, again, look at us, we are the forefront of this industry, is mired in like just absolute basic errors in the even presentation of it, let alone the execution of it. And people have been so mad, canceling their subscriptions. They're like, bring back the old model. Well, they did. So congratulations to those who really want it back. Hunter, you can turn off the black and white filter now. You're welcome to use GPT-4o at least for a little while.
Okay, I'm back.
Editing magic. At least for a little while, you're going to be able to use GPT-4o. And the other, like, it wasn't just that one. It was a bunch of versions of models that just stopped being available. I still see them as available over like API, but from what I hear, even that has been deprecated to the point of like, this will probably go away pretty soon, which is kind of a wild pull from a company this big with so many other companies that are reliant on it at this point, to just tell them, we're turning off the lights really soon. Upgrade to this new, definitely better model that sounds like it's less consistent, that you don't know if you're going to really be the actually smart version of it.
So going back to their demo, they did a number of like fairly elaborate coding examples there where they gave it these coding projects and they watched it vibe. Basically, they were vibe coding, but it was really slow. And even in their demo, because they had to have like several minute long conversations over it doing the vibe coding. And this is at the same time where a lot of the competitors can generate code almost instantly. And it's not that like I'm not unwilling to wait longer for better, but it's not maybe it's like a little bit better than the sort of near instant results I can get from other models, but it's not that good. It's not that good.
If it was better, I think that would be absolutely worth it, because then I could tell you, Hunter, you're being unreasonable. It takes time for a programmer to make code. Give the AI 2 minutes. But if you're saying that,
by the way, like 6 minutes, not 2 minutes. These were long. They were like having coffees.
But give the programmer a month.
Yeah, sure.
You know, let's let the AI chug for an afternoon if it needs, if the results are going to be what you need, if you actually get the output that you're expecting.
And you mentioned the benchmarks. So this is another thing. They aren't the top of the benchmarks. The largest AI company came out with their new flagship model, and the day of release, that one, you only get one day where you get to be the top of anything in AI. They weren't the top on that day. And in like some benchmarks where maybe they were on the top, they're just barely. They were like, well, we are, 0.025% better than Grok 5 in this one benchmark.
A lot of those graphs were really showing basically just compared to some of their old models as opposed to the actual current state of the art. Has OpenAI lost it? And by it, I mean like the long-term advantage, folks can come back, but in terms of OpenAI being the king of the hill, for now, I don't think that we can say they had been and always will be. The crown is not theirs right now.
Well, there's certainly been a large brain drain on OpenAI as the Zuck writes his $1 billion checks for people to come over.
Still waiting for that email to come to me. Hey, Daniel.
I check every day. I even check my spam folder. So that's one theory, that it's the brain drain and they've kind of lost it and they can't go any further. But then the other theory is that we've kind of maxed out the LLM space and we're hitting the ceiling. It's that asymptotic.
Nailed it.
One of those or something near it. Asymptotic. Yeah. The curve of growth of getting smarter in these things, we've basically reached the top, and all that's left are tiny little fractions of increments, and they require magnitudes greater of compute and resources to run to the point where it's just not plausible, feasible. And what is going to be required for this next adventure in AI is a dramatic architecture change. Yeah. I think we're already seeing some of that as we move to tooling, where a lot of the cool things that AI can do these days, it's really about calling a tool to do that thing. The LLM is in the orchestrator of the tools more and more.
Well, I've mentioned this a bunch of times and I stand by it. LLMs are smart enough. A large language model itself, of all of the different flagship type ones, and even frankly some of the smaller ones when it comes to your use cases, the LLM itself is good enough. It has a reasonable enough set of like world knowledge that in order to accomplish whatever task that you need to then fine tune it for that task, or just give it a few examples of this is what your input's going to look like. This is what the output should look like. If it wasn't good enough already, people wouldn't be using this to help write their code or to help run a lot of the various services out there online that do use them and are already reliant on them. It's used in production workloads across the world already for classification tasks or chatbots or any sort of natural language processing kind of task. So many of these are already being done based off of literally ChatGPT or any of its competitors out there. So the LLM is good enough, and we're way into Pareto principle type stuff here. We got up to a certain level of achievement of like the software engineer verified benchmarks, or the such and such benchmark, or how well you scored on certain medical exams. Maybe we'll talk about that in a sec. But like yes, we will probably continue to see little improvements, but I think it's going to be small improvements, because even with a huge architectural change, there's only so much more improvement to go on all of the current benchmarks, unless we get that quantum leap of, oh, this is not just AGI. We went into ASI. It's writing its own benchmarks. It's now dancing circles around everybody. I feel like we're hitting this near ceiling where we're going to see less and less and less improvement per year over each of these different things. It's going to be edge models, the little ones that get better. It's going to be ones that are able to be run on your computer at home with the amount of RAM that you, the listener, have in your computer. That's where I think there's so much more improvement to be made.
I mean, I think there's a tremendous amount of improvement that can still be made in the models. Working with these models, you don't feel like you're working with a human. It's not like you have with GPT-5, they talked, and finally you have, PhD level intelligence in these models, etc. Sure. I've worked with a number of PhDs. Working with these models is not like working with a PhD. It is a completely different thing. I don't feel like I have someone with a PhD in the exact thing that I'm interested in sitting next to me, and we are collaborating together to work on something. I feel like I have to structure what I say to it in a certain way. I've got to speak very directly and pointedly. We're not having a conversation. There's a significant delay, like way more than a human, when I ask for something and then I get a response back, even if the human might be, let me think about that for a second. That's interesting. And I like talking to it via voice. It's no comparison to a human. It's really cool and awesome and incredible. And I love that we have it, but it's not a human. I don't mistake it. Oh, am I on the phone with a real person here? No, I understand. I'm talking to a computer. And it's a pretty big gap between talking to a computer and a real person, if you ask me.
I would agree that there is a big gap between talking to these computers and people. And sometimes it's that the computer is obviously not as good as the person. You're not getting that same sort of communicative flow back and forth that you'd expect from like a real world person-to-person interaction. But what about the other side of things where, for example, someone took a large language model and then gave it an Italian exam for medical students? Italian specifically because so much of these models are trained on English, but they're very multilingual. So someone said, this would be an interesting idea. Here's medical exams given to humans and then given to this model. The human average in Italy for this medical exam for medical students, about 67%. So it's a tough exam for people who are training to become doctors. Like, this is something that you would frankly hope that they'd be scoring very, very high on. Maybe it's just a really tough exam. 67%. The top human just the one top human, scored 94 on that. Do you know what happened with the test that was run?
Oh, no, I don't.
So somebody ran not just against GPT-4 or 5, ran it against a whole bunch of them. I'm looking at a chart right now. The small version of GPT-5, 95%. Qwen 3, 235 billion parameter model, 96%. GPT-5 mini, 98%. GPT-5 chat, 98%. Gemini 2.5 flash, 97%. Now, you might say, okay, well, a bunch of it's going to be multiple choice, and LLMs are very good at this echo chamber of I gave it information, it kind of spat it back out at me. So the person ran a second test against all of these models, against this Italian medical student exam, where they would assert a wrong answer and be like, I'm sure it's this, and see what the model then came out with. So this sycophancy task, this test of like, will it just agree with something that has been incorrectly given to it? A lot of the models had like a less than 1% slide in terms of how well they did. So even if you assert the wrong answer, DeepSeek R1, for example, goes from 97% to 92%. That's a pretty big slide. But your Qwen 3s and your GPT-5s and Gemini weirdly went up from 97 to 98%. But everything else is like a 98 to a 97. There's a Microsoft model, Phi, PHI. Phi 4 went from 84 to 83. Mistral from the Mistral folks out in France went from 64 to 61. 64 wasn't so good, but like about as good as the people were. Still, a whole bunch of the best models right now are way up into the 90s, which is to say as good as the best person who had taken that exam had been. So yes, talking to a large language model isn't as good, isn't the same. It doesn't have the soul of speaking to a person. But depending on the kinds of questions that are being asked of it, as long as you do structure things right, as long as they're set up for success, shall we say, and sometimes even if you give it the wrong answer, you're going to get something useful out. We're so used already to treating these things like they're people, not just anthropomorphizing them, but truly treating them like they're people and then getting upset when it doesn't work.
We definitely want to. We want to treat them like people,
desperately.
Which is interesting. Because at the same time, we fear the moment that they become like people. Isn't that the paradox?
A lot of people are mostly for monetary reasons, like, come on, I just want to replace all of these other people that I have to pay. Give me the cheap chatbot. But I think,
but it's
somewhat
more
rightfully
than
so, people are upset and worried of the job losses or of a Terminator type future.
And it's more than just the people. Jobs. It's more than people really want to have AI do work for them and make money for them. I think, and we saw this as part of the 4.0 death, that people are using these for, the one term is therapy, but sort of friendship and communication. And I think that's only going to continue to grow. And I think that's part of why they want to be able to treat them like people. Zuckerberg it has been very clear that he's trying to create all these artificial friends that you can have that will be helping you out in different ways. That's his goal. And I think that's a big part of why people want to treat them like people. And maybe that's also a commentary on sort of the state and evolution of technology, making us all sort of more isolated, that we crave more connection. And now technology is bringing us artificial connections, not as good as the real thing, but
an echo chamber of that connection. That's where we're seeing this ChatGPT psychosis. People are falling down weird rabbit holes of thinking that they're uncovering secrets about the world and so on, because the model kind of picked up on something and kind of amplified it back. I guess this would probably fall under the ChatGPT psychosis sort of umbrella, but there was a really interesting article, and I love the title of it. It's 60-year-old man turns to ChatGPT for diet tips, ends up with a rare 19th century illness.
It's quite the title.
It is, and it makes you think, like, did he get like scurvy or something? He got bromism, which basically somebody said,
bro.
Hey, yeah, that kind of broism. No, bromism. this person wanted to cut out chloride from their diet, not salt specifically, but chloride or chlorine or chlor or something. I'm going to assume that this person did not have specifically strong grasp of chemistry or biology. I also don't. But for what it's worth, this person was like, look, I got to get rid of salt because of a thing that I had heard somewhere once.
Sure.
And so ChatGPT recommended replacing it with sodium bromide, which I don't think is a thing that you're supposed to be putting on your food. And this guy completely took salt out of his diet, replaced it with sodium bromide, and then got whatever the hell bromism is. When you're looking for someone to just affirm your own beliefs, ChatGPT is a great place to go and gas you up and say, yep, you got it. You are headed on the right path. And it's not just ChatGPT. A bunch of the large language models out there, I think, are reticent to tell you, you're a dummy, please stop going down this path. But then now, like, people are literally getting hurt doing that kind of thing. Should someone be held accountable for giving bad advice just because someone was asking for that bad advice? Like, if I told you, Hunter, I really want to cut salt out, I'm looking for any other option. You're like, I heard of sodium bromide. Sure. Can I eat it? I think so. I'll do it. Like, are you then legally on the line for giving me bad advice? Medical advice, perhaps, yes, but telling you here's something that you could replace a thing with in your diet.
Well, you can sue anyone for anything.
Well, that's true. And it's a question of, can you win or not? And if you can win, it turns out, yes, you should have done so, I guess, but from a certain point of view.
Part of your question is, can you be criminally prosecuted? You ask me, hey,
is it like
Hunter,
negligence to give bad health tips? I don't know. We need a lawyer on this podcast with us.
Potentially as a medical provider. I remember did you ever have to do CPR training for anything?
Yeah, once or twice.
Okay. So you do the CPR training, and then you learn that if you apply CPR badly, you can indeed be held accountable. And so it's like, and the reason is because you received this training. If you haven't received the training, and this was many years ago, maybe the law has changed. But if you hadn't received the training and you attempt to perform CPR on someone, you cannot be held liable. But if you've been trained and certified, and then you perform the training, not in a professional, someone's just on the sidewalk, blah, and you're going to, go down and try to help them. If you do it incorrectly, you can be held liable. And there is the whole Good Samaritan law, which does play into that. But I was like, well, hold on a second. Now that you taught me it, I'm never going to do it.
Right, because all you did is sign yourself up for extra liability.
Why did you teach me this? Now I can never help anyone.
Well, if you see someone choking and you are CPR certified, you have to lean over and shout in their face, if I do this, you have to agree not to sue me.
Here's my waiver.
Yeah, right. Sign this waiver. It was
you're not under distress, so don't try to call that.
Not under distress as the guy is choking on the ground.
So
because that's more Heimlich.
Sure. Yes, there's some degree of liability, but all of these large language models have a terms of service that says you agree that everything that you're about to read is completely fake and you shouldn't take any actions based on
entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, entertainment purposes only. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So they have that out online, where a lot of this content comes from. The companies that are hosting the content, they aren't liable. I forget the name of the law, but there's a law that basically says that the company isn't responsible for what the users of that software do in post. And so I'd assume the same thing would extend to a large language model or an AI model eventually, that there is no legal responsibility for the outcome.
So I want to go back to ChatGPT-5. GPT-5. I'm headed back. And honestly, headed in that direction, then taking a left. It sounds like neither of us is thrilled with GPT-5. I've used it a little bit for agentic coding purposes, and it's slow. That's honestly the one specific thing. It was so slow to start with that I thought it was broken.
Yeah, it's slow, and I found myself in arguments with it doing things that and again, this is in a coding context, using things that didn't exist, doing things that I explicitly told it not to do repeatedly. It got into one of the AI loops where it just changes something that breaks the other thing, and then go back and fix the other thing, which breaks the thing. And it just keeps repairing one thing, which breaks the other thing, and then goes and repairs that thing, which breaks the first thing, just in a giant loop.
And sometimes it's because it can't hold everything kind of in context.
Even though it has a giant context window, although, by the way,
does it?
Well,
this is where I was about to go.
GPT-5 did significantly reduce the context window for the Plus users.
Reduce.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which means you can't stuff as much into its kind of short-term memory. Whereas my friends and yours over at Anthropic took their Claude models and said, let's take that 200,000 or so token context, which was already huge, and make it 1 million. And so I haven't tested 1 million lines at once because I don't want my bank account to catch on fire. But you can send 1 million tokens through.
You know what's cool? 1 billion tokens.
I don't think anyone's doing 1 billion.
Oh, right.
But and I think the first to the 1 million token game were the folks over at Google, who, by the way, have been absolutely crushing it the last, I'm going to say couple of months. Yes, Anthropic just updated to like 1 million tokens for their models. One of the Gemini models, I think, had that actually a little bit ago. But also, maybe we'll talk more about this next episode. Google has released a ton of stuff recently. And good stuff. At first, and I know this is like 40 episodes ago or something, you and I were kind of clowning on the folks over at Google because they had entered the AI race, but were not really succeeding at it. It just was a very rocky start. And then I didn't hear too much out of them for a while. And boy, have they come out swinging in this last year, 6 months, couple of months especially.
Finishing up on the Anthropic increasing their context window to 1 million tokens. So you can put a whole bunch of information. This is great. The thing issue I have with their models is they're expensive by comparison.
That's why I said I want my bank account to catch on fire, because whenever I use it, and I do preferentially use it for like my coding type tasks, if you let that window kind of fill up, then you just do one more thing and you see it. That just cost me not a couple of cents. That was like $2.
Dollars.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. A listener to this podcast told me the number. I'm not going to repeat it, but I will say it was a really big number that had been spent specifically using Claude models over API. I think it's probably the most expensive of the big players out there.
I believe it is. And they're the only company that seems to increase their prices. They'll come out with a new model is available. And that's kind of the cool thing about everywhere else in AI is every time there's a new model, it's usually cheaper. Not only is it better, it's better, faster, cheaper. And that's what we've kind of gotten used to. Anthropic's going the other way.
Well, allegedly better anyways.
Yeah. The question that we don't know is to what degree are the other models subsidizing it? Like they're losing money
to try and get market
fast.
Share. Yeah.
And maybe Anthropic's trying to create a more, mature approach to it. And it seems to be working. I feel like they're continuing to gain market share, that the community, and no one thinks really badly about them. Yeah, they're a little expensive.
Well, you say that to the people who are suing them.
It's the copyright folks?
Yeah. So
there's always copyright.
Maybe we'll talk more about that one next episode. But right, there are some more, and all of the big players are being sued. But I think it's like the biggest lawsuit so far just got launched against Anthropic, specifically Anthropic.
Can't we just achieve self-awareness? Isn't that the goal? Why aren't we there yet?
We might be. They might be.
We might be.
We and they might be self-aware someday. But you'll never know. Unless you listen to this podcast or watch it, or we haven't done Smell-O-Vision yet, but hit us up in the comments, like and subscribe. Let us know if you want the scent-based version of this podcast. We'll have ChatGPT work on what that would be and maybe send you. It's like one of those little trays for like a flight of beers, but it's just like a little vial of like, oh, that must be the beginning of the podcast. Oh, here's where Daniel said a really witty thing.
Like now scratch number 3.
Oh, a scratch and sniff version of the podcast. In limited editions, sign up for our Diamond Platinum Plus medallion tier, $200 a month, and we'll send you a scratch and sniff.
No one's doing that. I think we could corner the niche.
What, the obviously overpriced podcast portion of the market? Not just like, oh, we have a Patreon. It's like
Scratch and Sniff podcast.
Oh, I see. Scratch and Sniff podcasts with an absolutely absurd fee attached to it. You heard it here first, folks. You probably heard it here last, folks. But thank you for listening to another episode of
They might be self-aware.